It's the Dr. D Show.
And welcome to another episode of the Dr. D Show. Back in the building once again, your host of the most, Dr. D, alongside
EK.
EK, my man. How you doing today?
Not too bad at all. Not too bad.
Not too bad. No greetings. What the fuck, man?
Oh,
I was
just said
expecting the
no, 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 no,
greetings.
no, 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 no. You said how are you doing? I'm answering a question.
Yeah, typically you go greeting.
Well,
So whatever it
I'll
is that
say
you say.
I'll say greetings to the audience.
Oh.
Greetings, people.
Nah, now we ain't expecting it, so I don't know.
Jeez.
You messed it up, man. But
No, no.
I'm glad you're good, though. I'm glad you're good. Welcome to another episode of the show, or another episode of the podcast or recording, whatever it is you want to call it. Today is gonna be good. It's gonna be a little bit in depth. It might be a little bit controversial. It can be, I don't know. I think. What do you think? Interesting conversation, right?
I think it would be interesting.
Interesting conversation.
Perspectives that are different.
Yeah, I think. So what are we talking about today? So what I got here is racism in Africa versus North America.
Yeah.
What is racism being like for you growing up in Africa versus North America? That's what we're talking about because, we both black, we both African proud. You know what I'm saying? Put it there, brother. All right. Yeah. So it's that's what we're gonna be talking about. So if y'all any of our audience listeners out there, I don't know if you wherever it is you're from, forget the fact that we're talking about Africa, just put your minds in that place where you're looking at it as you from your own land. How has racism been like for you from your own territory, from your own country, versus you being here in North America? That's if you're an immigrant. Obviously, if you're born here, then this shit don't apply to you. Then just sit back and shut the fuck up and listen and enjoy the show.
Not necessarily though. Maybe it might be able to enlighten somebody to actually open up their eyes to see that this stuff does exist.
Well, and that's why they said they just have to sit back, shut the fuck up, and listen and open up their ears.
Well, if they have an opinion, they can voice it.
You don't really have an opinion here because you are not an immigrant, so I don't know what you really want to chime in on. Except you want to talk about your experiences of racism being born in North America, then yeah, that's a different story. But if you're just like gonna open your mouth and just say whatever and try to act smart, I don't know.
Personally, I actually like people who open up their mouths with any opinion that they have, because in whatever they have to say, they might say something that will help me grow, that will help me understand things differently. Not to say it will alter my perspective. My perspective, maybe it might, maybe it won't, but I stand firm by what I believe in.
That's
what
a good way to look at it.
But
unfortunately, I don't look at it like that because if you just open your mouth for the sake of opening your mouth,
never stop learning.
I might feel like I'm losing brain cells at some point in time because you don't just open your mouth for the hell of it, man. Like I know you saying yes, you encourage them just open their mouth and when they need to have express their opinion. Yeah, but your opinion's got to be like sensible. You see, it's got to be something that you're gonna say that is either gonna make people think, or you can't just open your mouth and then people gonna be like, "What an idiot!"
See,
why did this guy? Like, who invited this guy?
One thing I've learned about when people talk, when people open their mouths, especially those who don't think before they say, they give people like myself an opportunity to learn about the type of people that the world is made up of.
So essentially, you figure out, I'm dealing with an idiot. So maybe
what makes this person an idiot?
The dumb shit that's coming out of their freaking mouth.
Why are they saying it?
Because they
are coming from an entitled position, or they're coming from X and Y position.
Right.
Gives me ammunition to learn. Never stop learning. I always say, never stop learning.
Learning is a continuing process. Like I always say, man. That track, man, Damian Marley. I forget what it's called. Damian Marley is like, life is a thing. When you learn, you grow.
There you go.
So yeah, man. Life is a continuous learning process.
But
for today, we're talking about racism in Africa versus in North America. Growing up in Africa versus migrating to North America and living. I figured I start from like the nitty gritty, the main basics, so we like understanding what context that we're dealing with today, and we're looking at racism. So, what is racism? So, for starters, let's look at it. What does racism mean to you? What do you think racism is?
To me, racism. Sorry, is a marginalization of one group by another. So, in this case, it's all about the color of your skin.
Right.
We come from different races, so one race is dominant or tries to be dominant over another in whatever capacity. But in most cases, it's not always the good thing.
Right. So, if I understand correctly, you're just saying that racism for you, as you see it, is essentially one race essentially trying to enhance or trying to impose their dominance over another race just because they are a different skin color.
Correct.
Damn. Okay,
Correct.
that's cool.
And it includes discrimination. So by
Right.
trying to
Yeah.
assert dominance, discrimination comes along.
Essentially, yeah, you denying them things or whatever you're trying to say you better than them. Right, right. I can see that. See, I like to think of racism to be a lot deeper than just skin color.
Okay.
Like I like to look at it as
Also,
like not just about your skin color, it's more about your way of perception and thinking.
now the reason why I say it's based off of skin color.
And let me just quickly finish. Based off your perception and thinking of a different person or a different group, because that group does not share the same cultural ideas or ideology as yourself.
Okay, that can be.
And that's either because you think they don't or you just don't fucking understand to know enough.
Now, why I say racism, from my perspective, is skin tone based, is it's the first visible thing that you come across to identify true differences. And for example, I know a lot of people when I speak, half the time or when I was working in the call center, they'll say, "Oh, so which part of the UK are you from?" Fuck no, I'm not from the UK. I'm from Zimbabwe. Surprise, surprise.
Greetings. He's not
But-
from the UK.
But the thing is, if they saw me face to face, the one thing that will come to their mind first, oh, he's black.
Right.
That's why I try and always tie racism to skin tone, skin differences, skin color differences.
See, the only reason
It-
why
it
I
delves
feel
deeper in.
racism could is more than skin color is because you can have folks with the same color that are fucking racist to each other, but they're from different places.
Okay, let's just dumb it down on this one. When I say race, or when we say race, what do you understand by that term?
So-
What's race?
So the way I've given sort of a highlight of what I think it is that is deeper. It's more about your perception, your thinking of a certain group only because you feel different or you think that they're different from your ideologies and way of living. But I actually did a little bit of research and
Okay.
I looked it up on the Oxford reference, whatever dictionary. You know, Oxford is known for their grasp on the English language and vocabulary and whatever. But yeah, by definition, racism means the inability or refusal to recognize the rights, needs, dignity, or value of people of particular races
Okay.
or geographical origin.
Okay. Now it comes back to that word, geographical origins. Let's put that aside. Let's look at the race part. Just the race part. What do you understand by
Value
the
of
term race?
particular races. Yeah, your
Yeah.
your color, your ethnicity.
Coming back to
yeah,
skin tone.
yeah, your skin tone. Well, yeah.
That's the most visible one.
But yeah, I understand where you're coming from. The most visible it is racism. But what I'm trying to say is, what I'm trying to bring to light is, most people will look at racism from the perspective that you're bringing up right now from skin tone.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, it's way deeper
No. From what I'm doing, I'm just scratching on the surface.
than the skin
What you're
tone.
saying holds value a lot because
Right.
now when we start delving deeper into racism and whatnot, what you're saying comes into play.
Right.
What I was just trying to do is from a broader perspective.
Yeah. From
This is what I
general
understand.
layman's term,
Yeah.
when you hear racism, boom, color
Color.
comes into color
Yeah.
context.
Yeah.
Is he black? Is he white? Is he Chinese? Is he yellow, brown, purple, green,
Exactly.
blue in the face, red in the ass? Like, what is he? You know, it's crazy, man. So for you as an African, like, what has racism been like for you growing up? Have you experienced any type of racism? Have you witnessed anything? Like, what has that been like?
See, the funny thing is, growing up in Zimbabwe, the way I was brought up, my parents always used to say, wait until you listen to somebody speak to you for you to be able to make a judgment call on their character. Never look at white, black, yellow, whatever. Never look at the skin tone. Give the person a chance to speak. Then you can always make a decision. Fortunately, growing up, never had experiences of racism. Used to have friends of different ethnicities, color, and what it was just normal for us. Maybe somebody who walked through or walked in would say, "Oh, you guys are from different backgrounds, different color and whatnot." For us growing up, it was never.
Right. So did you ever like have encountered people with different races, like people that weren't black or African, like that were Caucasian or, for example, brown?
Yeah.
And none of you ever looked at each other in the sense of we're different. We didn't judge you. You didn't judge each other based on your color. You judge each other based on the content or quality of your character.
Unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on which side of the coin you slipping on. In my case, I never looked at skin tone. Yes, the difference is there. He's white, I'm black. He's brown. We're just a mixed bunch.
Right.
In school, everybody learned the same languages, even the local languages. So it's something that's so enshrined in us
Right.
that we're just a community. We have to share ideas, and that's it. This whole perspective of color this and color that was never brought up.
So is it fair to say that you shared essentially a similar culture, and that's why you never looked at it as, oh, they're brown or Caucasian or something? You never looked at it in that context. Is that because your culture is similar? You have to learn the same language, you have to study the same stuff, you got to be around the same community.
With my upbringing, where we used to live, there were all races that were there. We used to be friends with white guys, brown guys. We used to just have fun.
Right.
So if I go home and they come over, whatever's on the table, if they're hungry, they eat.
Right.
If I go to theirs, we sit, we eat. It was never a thing. It was the one common instruction that we always used to have was both sets of parents always instilled discipline.
Right.
You have to respect each other.
Right.
That was a bonus. Now that I look from outside, well, that was actually a good thing. How they ended up growing, if they started to realize that they were just purely white and they had their own intentions, that was something that might have happened later on. But growing up, never witnessed it. It might have been there, might have just been ignorant.
Right. So from your perspective, you particularly never experienced it. So you didn't have like no brown person or Caucasian person be like racist towards you, is what you're saying.
Not at all.
Did you ever witness another African be racist towards another race, like a white person or a brown person, for example?
No, it's a yes and a no.
Okay.
Now, when I say it's a yes and a
Sitting
no,
on the fence type of response, eh?
no, on this one, I'll explain myself. Crying out loud, just give me a fucking chance.
All right, go ahead, man.
When I say yes or no, there were cases where I would witness, especially white folk, they would look down on black people.
That's racism, man. You said you didn't experience no freaking racism.
That's why I said growing up, it was after.
Right.
This is in my 18s, 19s, before I left Zimbabwe.
Right.
Where it was openly evident because that's when there was the farm invasion in Zimbabwe and everything just came out of the fold. It's just each man for himself.
What happened in the farm invasion? Sorry, just give a little education for those that, like myself, who doesn't know shit about it.
Okay.
Just a quick and then go back.
So colonizers came to Zimbabwe, 1890 something, I think.
Right.
Pretty much took over the land, and the reason why Zimbabwe went to war was to regain their land back.
Right.
And it so happened that 1980. There were agreements that were set with rules to say by such and such a time there has to be land appropriated from white people given to blacks. Now, the dynamics I'm not fully aware of, but what ended up happening is around 1999, 2000, there was what we called the land invasion, where blacks,
Right, I heard
marginalized
about
blacks,
that.
took over.
They got mad. They were like, "Fuck you guys, taking my land."
Exactly. Now,
So there's a lot of farmers too. Apparently, white farmers that got the shit taken from them, and apparently there was a whole the world outcry. No, this is not right.
There was a whole kerfuffle, and yeah,
I remember that
happen.
news. Yeah.
Now it brings up twofold one complexity with the whole situation because you're taking farms from whites and you're assuming that these are British white. Now these farms and these pieces of land were taken way back. These are now grandchildren of colonizers. These were born in Zimbabwe. So now, fine line is, okay, here's Zimbabwe. We are Zimbabwean. The only difference we have between the two is one is black, one is white. Now, some still have the mentality that I'm white, I'm superior. So that's what I witnessed where a guy went to buy vegetables just on the road because they have stalls where vegetables are affordable.
Right.
Went there and trying to haggle a guy who, is struggling.
Right.
Then he stands his ground, and you find it offensive that you have to call him a kefa, which is pretty much nigger.
Kefa? Is that how you say the N word in Zimbabwe?
No, kefa because that's the Afrikaner way of saying nigger.
Really, kefa?
Yeah.
I never heard that before.
Oh yeah.
So I can just go around and be like, "Yo, my kefa."
Oh jeez.
What up, my kefa? Yo.
Yeah, not everybody will subscribe to it.
That's crazy,
you might
man.
get a couple of missing teeth, but
I never heard that before. Kefa, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, now from now I ain't using the N word no more. It's gonna be kefas from now on, man. It's the K word now.
But that was my first experience with racism, where I was in my teens. Right. That's the first time I actually witnessed firsthand somebody being called a fucking kefa.
Right.
So that kind of opened my eyes. Oh, so this world that people talk about does actually exist.
It exists in my world.
Right. In the back of my mind, it's always there because you watch a lot of TV.
Right.
And as boys and girls, you converse amongst yourselves.
Right.
But then when you witness it firsthand, it kind of opens your head to imagination. Oh, what actually happens that I don't witness?
You know, it's funny that you say that because I personally never understood racism back in Africa when I was there. Like it never crossed my head, it never crossed my and I realized why it never crossed my path
That I'd like to listen to.
because I actually my eyes weren't open to. And when I say my eyes weren't open to it, it's like I'm seeing it, but my mind is not connecting the dot, is not understanding the concept, man. It's just because again I was young, I was a youth, so that understanding was not really there. And I'll give you an example. Like you'll be around people now, for example, and there'll be like an Indian that will come by or whatever, and guys will make like a dance, like a Bollywood dance, like mimic, kind of thing. But we would laugh and shit, but that's kind of like a racist shit, to do. Because for all we know, this guy's not even Indian. He could be from Pakistan. Because we had Indians and Pakistanis that lived in Nigeria that did business, and a lot of them, because they even have like Indian schools and stuff, in Nigeria. And it's like, well, I didn't really see it in that sense as being racist. And on the flip side of it, I had friends that were white, or at least I thought that they were white. I didn't understand freaking mulatto. I didn't understand that some people could be mixed, half black and white, and still look fucking like they're white. I didn't understand that shit. So like a good friend of mine, like when I was in high school, like quite a few of them, they're like mulattoes, but you see them, they're like, fucking, you think this motherfucker's a white guy. And because of that, they've actually been targets by other Africans, either for like robberies or like extortion or whatever, So they've been targets, even though these motherfuckers are technically mulattoes. They're black, but to us, they look like fucking white people. But I never really picked up on that as being a form of racism, as a form of prejudice. Because now, if you look at the definition, you're not recognizing someone's rights, someone's needs, dignity, value. So you're refusing.
I love that point because what it brings me back to is one of my friends said we are all racist.
Right.
But there are two facets to it. We're ignorant racists and we are full out blown racists that I know. The worst of the two is the ignorant racist. Why is he or she the worst? Or the worst of the two is because they do not believe they're racist.
Right.
They're in denial.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
I know those kind of racists.
With what you were saying, I 100% understand. And in a way, I do appreciate, on this one occasion only, I appreciate being ignorant because if I had not been ignorant, I would have started making splitting decisions on color at a tender age. But we're so ignorant to even understand. Part that I find is actually interesting is that ignorance that I had from a tender age was a good thing because had I started building a foundation based off of race color at such a tender age, where would I be now? So that part of ignorance towards racism, I 100% appreciate. Agree with? No. Appreciate? Yes. Because now I have been exposed to a lot of things and my decisions and the way I look at life, look at race is different.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So we look at what racism looks like for you growing up. You said as an African man that you did experience, not subtly, but in some ways, some racism.
As an African child, I do not witness it, but later on in life, when I was growing up in my teens, I did come across it firsthand.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you think Africans can be racist towards like whites or other races?
Absolutely. As I said, what my buddy said, we are all racist. We just are in denial. Because I'll give you an example. Let's say we're sitting outside and somebody brown, white walks past and they do something stupid.
Right.
Or just something silly. We will be the first ones to say, oh, look at that white fucker.
Right.
We're just conversing the both of us. But now we've infringed on that person's dignity by what we just said.
Right.
That's why I was saying that what you say earlier on bears a lot of water when you start looking into racism in depth.
Right, yeah. Right. That's true. I like that, man. I like that because sometimes you get guilty. It's not like you actually mean it in a bad way, but is it like you actually mean it when you say look at that white fucker, or you just like look at that fucker that happens to be a white person?
But it's that,
you know what I mean?
It's that ignorance of differentiating between the two.
Right.
You just say passive as if it's something common, it's just everyday conversation.
Right.
But then when you dial back and look at your definition that you got from Oxford Dictionary,
yeah,
of what racism is, it's right there.
Right.
We are all racist. It's just that we don't see the log in our eyes, but we're able to tell the speck in somebody's eye.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting, man. So we've looked at racism growing up in Africa, living in Africa, what it might have looked like from our lenses. Now we migrated our black behinds
Yeah.
here to North America. Have you experienced any racism in North America, and what does that look like to you?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, personally, the most racism I've encountered is surprisingly from natives.
What?
Absolutely.
No way.
It sounds far-fetched, but the all, I would say not all, but majority of the racism towards me has been from natives.
How so? All right, I want to hear some stories. Man.
Okay, I've
It
got
sounds like there's some stories that's behind this.
no. So on one occasion, because when I used to live in Windsor,
Right.
I used to take the bus quite a lot.
Yeah.
So on one occasion, I hopped onto the bus, sat down and took out a book. I'm reading. This one guy comes up, and yeah, thank God there was no COVID at that time. He pretty much went to everyone on the bus, shook them by hand, of which some people were weirded out, and he just did the fist bump.
Right.
And you could tell that this guy is fucking drunk off his ass.
Right.
But that's no excuse. It's his personality that's just showing because of the alcohol. But he went through everyone on the bus, gave them the fist bump or handshake,
Right.
and he did not do anything to me.
Yeah, well, he was wasted, man.
Oh no! So he goes up to the driver,
Right.
and then he says, "If I didn't greet you by hand, if I didn't greet you at all, you're not human enough for me to do that."
Wow.
So lucky enough, the bus driver just said, "You know what, buddy? I'm going to stop the bus, and you get the fuck off the bus."
This is your last stop.
Yeah, and he put up a fight until the driver said, "Okay, no problem. I'll call the cops."
That's crazy, man.
So he did put up for a fight for a few seconds. Then when you saw that the bus driver was serious, he just hopped off the bus.
See, I don't know if I fully consider that as racism, just because there's booze involved, and people do a lot of dumb shit when there's booze involved. But at the same time, not in his defense, actually to his discredit, typically when you're boozed up, your true emotions tend to come out.
They tend to. Not always, but
Tend
they
to
tend
come
to.
out.
Yeah.
Right.
Good
So
wording.
if he was been harboring some undercover fucking racism
Yeah.
feelings or emotions towards black people, and the booze definitely,
Just help them.
you know,
Help this cause.
opened those gates, you know, and broke the shackles and just let him free. But I'm glad that the bus driver actually spoke up and did something, because some situations people would just be, scared and whatnot. They want to deal with someone that's drunk, and
Exactly.
they put their hands up like, "Oh, it's not my business.
Not my problem. Not
You
my
didn't,
problem.
you didn't call me the kefir."
Question for you. Question for you.
Right.
Now. Before we move on that, question for you. Did you ever face racism in Canada or North America?
Fuck yeah.
An example.
Fuck yeah.
I would like to hear this.
Hell yeah. Are you kidding me?
Jeez, don't tell me you bent over and shoved it.
You wish. You would love to see that.
Violated.
You would pay to see that.
Yeah,
wouldn't you?
right.
Yeah, I've experienced racism, man. This was back in again the dub. I don't know, man. This Windsor theme is starting to sound reoccurring, but there's nothing against Windsor. But I've experienced it everywhere. I've experienced it in Toronto. I've experienced it in Niagara. I've experienced it, whatever. Yeah, but this one particular case that happened in Windsor was I was after the bars at night, heading home. Me and my roomie, freaking Simba, we're fucking heading back, and we're just trying to, scoop up whatever is out in the streets,
Zimbabwe or Kenya?
He was African. I'm not giving away any.
Tanzania.
I'm not giving any locations.
Uganda?
Nah, I'm not saying nothing.
Fine.
I'm just saying that me and my buddy we're out there doing our thing, trying to see what's out there, trying to pick up the scraps. And we walked past this one bird, and I was checking out his feathers and seeing how, if it wanted to get ruffled and whatever. And there was a bunch of other cockatoos or cardinals, I should call them, a bunch of jokes. They're all around her, and I didn't think there was any of them with them. I thought they're all friends, buddy. Sometimes there'll be one girl that likes hang out with a bunch of dudes or whatever, but she's just tomboyish or whatever. I don't think it's one of those situations, because I'm talking with her for a minute and nobody's saying anything until some dude comes and is like, "Oh, tell him to fuck off or whatever." I'm like, "Oh, dude, you don't even know me. You just come, show up, and tell me to fuck off. At least be polite about it and be like, at least have some class. And then I looked at her. I'm like, is this kind of dude you're dealing with?
Oh, fuck.
You're dealing with a classless dude. You ain't got no class. Like, come on now.
Oh, you're just stoking a fire.
Well, you don't come and disrespect me like that when I'm talking to a bird. Like, come on now.
Fair enough.
Put your thinking cap on, man. Like, when Dr. D's working, you best be waiting behind them closed doors and waiting until you get called in.
Believe me, I've seen him back in the day.
You better wait till the doctor's ready to see you. You know what I mean? Before you come knocking on that door.
That's too funny.
But right, that's what I mean. So I told him like, hey, you dealing with this classless dude and whatever. And that's how the homeboy just dropped a kefa on me. It's like, yo, fuck you, kefa, blah, 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 kefa. You run a fucking kefa. It's because of kefas like you that we fucking own the shit. You're a kefa this, you're a kefa that. And I'm just sitting there with Simba and we're just like, what the fuck is going on? So at this point now, I'm mad. I'm like, man, this man just dropping kefas out of here. With all free word, and by the way, if you missed it earlier, Kefir is N-word in Zimbabwe. In Afrikaans.
Yeah.
Kefir, so just keep that in mind. So this man is dropping Kefirs all left, right, and center. So I'm cheesed. I'm like, at this point, I'm like, fuck this motherfucker. I'm gonna chop your girl today now. And I'm taking this bird home. So I sit down here. I'm like, okay, I'm not going no fucking way. So this dude and his boys are coming around and dropping Kefir bombs and trying to intimidate me and Simba, but we Africans, man. Like we seen, like, you're not intimidating me. Like, so eventually it got to a point where these guys are all rowdy, and like they hyped each other up to like, go do something to him, do something to him, kind of shit. And one of the men slapped me, and yes, as embarrassing as it is for me to admit.
You were bitch slapped.
Fuck you, man. Go
bitch slapped.
Go suck a fat one, man. Suck a fat one. Spin
you were
on
told
it.
that you were a Kefir first, and you were bitch slapped for it.
Go sit on the fat one, spin on it, jump off, and tell me how it felt. You fuck. Whatever, man.
Sorry. Go on.
Man's open palm smacked the shit in my face, and I'm sitting there on a bench, right? Yeah. The whole time this shit is playing out, believe it or not, man, the whole time this shit's playing out, there's a freaking police car parked on the side curb in there. I didn't notice. I saw the car was there, but I didn't think the cop was in there. Because, sometimes they just be sitting in there, their lights out and whatever on their computer or whatever, maybe watching porn, who the fuck knows. But he was sitting in there, and the guy comes out after he seen this homeboy smack me. Because at that point in time, he smacked me. He knows, oh shit, all hell about to break loose. This homeboy is about to go meet his ancestors, wherever the fuck they were. So I'm about to react, and the cop comes out and he's like, hey, you. He's like, you better stop there, and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, if you move, I'm going to arrest you for freaking disorderly conduct or whatever. I'm like, disorderly conduct? I'm like, so you were here the whole time, you seen what's going on, these mans instigating. I'm just sitting here with my mans, chilling, and the guy's like, oh no. I'm like, yeah, but I didn't instigate nothing, and this guy technically assaulted me, and now I'm the victim telling you you're going to arrest me. Yeah. And it's like, oh man, Simba better get the F out of there, otherwise we're going to jail tonight.
Oh, fuck it, that donkey.
I was like,
fuck it, that donkey.
So yeah, that's my story, man. You talking about racism? I seen a little bit, just to be dropped with Kefirs all night long, and other names, to mention a few that I don't want to really say on air, and have the cops witness it.
Yeah.
Have them witness me get assaulted by another freaking Muzungu.
Oh jeez.
That's white person, again, for those that may not know. And then tell me that I'll be the one to get locked up and thrown in jail if I react. If I try to defend myself from someone that just assaulted me, smacked me in the face. Can you believe that, man? Smart. I couldn't do none.
Okay. No.
And at that time, I was still an immigrant. So unfortunately, my hands too, I felt kind of tired because I'm like, if I act, they would say it's an assault, they would deport my ass, and that's the end of it. You know what I mean? No, so it's like, you don't want to play with like those kind of risks. So I just swallowed my pride. Took it home, went home and cried like a little bitch, I'm just joking. Took your little tail and shoved it in your legs. I didn't cry, but like, yeah,
Now, this leads to me asking.
Right.
You've faced two sides of racism in just one interaction. There are these kids and then the cop.
Yep.
Now, when it comes to the cops and whatnot, what's your take on racism and police? Is it something that you can see getting balanced out, or is there a way?
Officer, police officer. You ever heard that KRS-One track?
Oh no, I haven't.
Okay, go listen to it. I forget what it's called, man. It talks about the interaction, how I feel about interaction with police and being black and racism. It goes back to the history. He gives it like an analogy of the history of how on the plantations they had the plantation, the officer in charge of the plantation that ran the slaves, that put everyone in line and that type of shit.
Uncle Tom?
Yeah, so they know. And Uncle Tom is the dude that not the black dude, but an actual white guy that is actually, or the group of white people that are in charge of the slaves. They whip them, put them in shape. Slaves try to run away. They're the ones that put them. And he gives that analogy of how how you see on plantation there was the officers in the hood. You see the cops rolling by. You see on the plantations the cops had like their whips and their guns or whatever. In the hood they have their guns too, whatever. You know what I mean? It gives this analogy and comparison of how they are supposed to be the ones that serve and protect on the plantation. Cops are the ones doing the same thing in the hood. Shit like that. So it's like, and there's never really been a position where there's an interaction between the officer and the slave, aka the black man, that has been of mutual benefit to both. The black man's always getting fucked, screwed.
It's unfortunate, but
and cops don't have that racial training because they grew up in a society in the mentality of their ancestors. Because their ancestors grew up with that mindset that we are better, we own you, we your officers, and they've imbibed that shit into their kids. Their kids grew up watching that shit. They grew up and pass it on to themselves, and generations and generations. That's how I feel, and personally. That's just my opinion, right? Like, people might be out there, they might be like, oh, he doesn't know, they might disagree, but that's kind of, it's like a learned behavior that has been passed on, and at no point in time has any of their generations stopped and hit the brakes and said, does any of this shit make sense? That how we've been living and treating this other race of a darker or different skin color from ours, does it even make any sense? Does it align with morality? Does it align with humanity? Does it align with how I want to be treated? Does it align with how I treat my own immediate family? Not one time in the history of their generation have they pumped the brakes to reevaluate shit.
No, I can understand. So in regards to trying to squash the whole racism stuff in North America, especially just focusing on cops for a second, do you think that education would help? Educating people on race would help? Or what sort of measures do you think would be?
Don't even get me started, because with schools too taking away education on like on black history, on different cultures, like, it's stupid. Like, you need to educate kids, because guess what? The kids are the future of tomorrow. If you don't educate these kids, guess who's gonna be a cop tomorrow? Who's gonna put on the fucking badge? Who's gonna say the Pledge of Allegiance and all that shit? That's gonna swear to serve and protect. The same fucking child that 18, 19, 20 years ago, you decided to take away racial education from their curriculum. Like, you must be a dumb motherfucker to think that not having racial education early enough in schools, as early as in fucking kindergarten, if you have me, as soon as my kid can say A, B, C, fucking D, I'm teaching him about race. As soon as he's gonna understand the concept of that, he's gotta understand that stuff. We have to understand, we cannot just disregard the importance of understanding differences in culture. We can't devalue that. It's just too flippin' important for us to just sweep it under the rug and be like, oh, it's a society, that's how life is, let's just move along.
Okay, another question for you. I'll try and keep this question shorter. Now, a memorable time where you saw racism where you were not part of it, different races, where it was blatant that this was racism.
That I wasn't involved?
Yeah, it wasn't even your skin tone that was involved. Say, for example, a brown guy and a white guy. Anything that you recall?
Every racist situation I've been involved with, I've somehow been thrown in the mix even when I wasn't involved. Like I told you, like, hey, remember that joke I was cracking, man?
Oh, jeez.
A brown guy and a white guy get in a fight. Guess who gets locked up? No, it's a riddle. Tell me, man. What do you think?
Picture.
Was that?
The guy taking a picture.
Nah, close.
What?
two black guys.
Oh, jeez. The one taking a picture and the one in the fight.
They're not even taking a picture, but that's the joke though, you know. A brown guy and a white guy get in a fight. Who gets locked up? Two black guys. So where the fuck they come from? They're not in the picture. They're not even involved anyway. But some of the alien ones will get picked up and get thrown in jail.
Yeah,
that's like the joke of like what I'm trying to say. Like that's how my situation has been when it comes to witnessing racism with other places. So a brown guy was racist to a white dude, which is ironic because typically it's the other way around.
Yeah.
And then a black dude goes to defend the white dude as being discriminated by the brown guy, which is some fucked up story right now. Now I'm thinking about it. Like a brown guy is being racist to a white guy, and then the black guy is defending the white guy, and then the black guy and his friend get thrown in jail or get arrested. Like it's just weird, man.
It's weird, but
I know it's a funny story, but it's a true story.
no, it's weird. But that's exactly what we should be doing: sticking up for each other, regardless of what skin tone we are, because at the end of the day, we all bleed red. Well, most of us bleed red. I don't know with your cold heart what you bleed, but
Hey, cut your skin. Oh, what does the guy say? Junior Reed. Cut your skin, you see red blood. You know, blood.
not to say go and cut. No, not to say go and cut.
All right. No, don't please don't go say Dr. D told you to go cut your skin to see if your blood is actually red. You be that person we were talking about earlier that, you know, didn't put on his thinking hat. But yeah, man, EK, great conversations on racism in Africa versus North America, man. I can keep going on at this shit,
on
man.
this one, with this topic, I personally feel we should have a second part to it.
A second part? Why the fuck? Why should we even stop? What's the point in stopping?
Oh, we can keep going, no problem.
Keep going.
You don't have to be a little bitch, do you?
I don't know, man. Like, I'm starting to get hungry and all that good shit too, but...
I'm jumping between the two, North America and Africa.
Right.
Now, there's one thing that I've always found interesting. The colonizers came in and they pretty much ran shop. It was their gig. They did what they had to do. And yeah, we ended up where we are.
Right.
They came. So when they're racist, that I can be bitter about because they took what was ours. Now we have a different form of racism that's occurring that most people are ignorant to, unfortunately.
Which is?
We invite people over to our countries. We offer them, or they offer us loans. I'm not going to name any country. They offer us loans of which we accept because guess what? The white guy doesn't trust that we can grow his money, so he just says, nah, I'm not going to give you money.
Right.
A nice guy comes from somewhere else, comes with a buckload of money.
Right.
But there are conditions that come with that.
Right.
These people have to come in and,
and rape your people a few times.
And run shop. Now, they came in. We did not have much control at that point in time. We tried to fight, didn't work. But now that we do have control, they've come over and we've invited them over.
Right.
And they're being racist to our brothers and sisters back home. It's one thing that cheeses me where when I look at race in Africa, half of it is not our fault entirely. The other half is absolutely our fault because
it's like you welcomed it.
Yeah.
It's like you welcomed it.
Yeah.
Shit, man. EK, interesting topic. Racism. Enjoyed banter, that chit chat, whatever it is you want to call it. It's been a pleasure. I think that wraps up the show for this evening, man. Racism in Africa versus North America. What y'all think? Let me know. Again, like I said from the jump, don't think about it as if you're not African, that's cool. But if you're an immigrant, think about it. What's racism been like for you? You know, from where you're from, growing up from your own country versus, you know, coming here to North America. Have you experienced racism? Have you witnessed it? You know, if you have some crazy stories like I have, please, man, feel free to, you know, share some of your experiences, your comments. You know, give us some shout outs on our Instagram page, D_1 Dark Smoke, the real Dr. D Show. Check out the Instagram handle there. Let us know what you think, you know. Out on Spotify, Google Podcasts, you know. These are all your major platforms. Go listen, man. Go listen. Do yourself a favor. EK?
Parting words. Most of us bleed the same color. Don't stop learning. I'm out.
You heard what my man EK said, and as I always say, man, be kind to one another. Don't do what I'll do, and I'll catch you on the flip side.